See, do you want to know the sponsors of Boko Haram in Nigeria? Are you sure you want to know the sponsors? The sponsors of these terrorist groups in Nigeria. Are you sure you want to know who their sponsors are? You want to know? If you're sure you want to know from today, so that next time, if anybody tell you anything, you see a lie. Now, follow me. Watch this video to the end. You see the sponsors of Boko Haram, where they are coming from. You know these Oibos. They're not the lie. Some of them, majority of them, not they lie. If they tell you something, believe. They don't do their research. They don't do investigation. They don't get the details before they will come and speak like this, angrily like this. They don't see everything. Now let's watch the video, and please don't forget to share, like, share, comment, please, and follow this page. Subscribe to this YouTube channel for more.
697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan. I don't know what we think we're going to change in Afghanistan. We lost 22,000, lost or wounded 22,500 Americans in Afghanistan over the course of our term there in the war, spending over $2 trillion. We're just going to keep on spending because somehow we think it's going to get better. And if you're wondering who's in charge of Afghanistan getting the money, and that money I just mentioned, the 697 million is on top of, and is in addition to the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of $40 to $80 million. Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarajuddin Haqqani. Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden, who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds to madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see it. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end.
About the USAID, and there's been a lot, and inspired from what the #1 citizen in that country has said. And it does look like someone who wants to say the money of America must be for the American people. And you cannot also take away the values, the advantage, and some of the benefits of some of these funding and aids have done to people in less privileged communities and those who have needed some of these aids. But the fact and some of the things that are being said, especially from representatives of the people in the United States Congress, especially from Scott Perry, he's a Republican, I assume, and he said all of those things.
Yeah, he's a
How worried are you that Boko Haram is being mentioned allegedly to be funded by funds coming from USAID?
Yeah, so Sheward, I'm going to be a little bit measured in my response, and for the simple reason that, as you know, I'm into security, and so the depth of my understanding of these issues is slightly different from the average person out there, and my statements would definitely carry, an impact. It's in the realm of foreign service. This is not new. The espionage and foreign service have been issues that have been on the table for a very long time. But in the manner with which the current US administration is, I would say, washing its dirty linen in public, it's concerning. When we did our assessment post the elections in the US, and the Trump administration, 4 years administration, we knew that there would be volatility. We knew that there would be some impetuous reaction, but this is a little bit beyond what we expected. Since the creation of the Department for Government Efficiency, that department has attempted to do a lot of things in an attempt to, as it were, improve government efficiency. And of course, Elon Musk is heading that. Then there are questions regarding his role. And at the moment, I think there are several lawsuits by challenging even his person heading that government efficiency unit. Of course, we also need to consider the Republican position on the matter, and of course, Trump's supporters' position on the matter. Now, for Rep. Scott Perry, he is a Republican. The narrative that the Republicans, especially those that are aligned with Donald Trump, are trying to sell is that the Democrats who ruled before them were supported inefficiency in government, and so anything that is required to improve that efficiency they would do. Now, in their bid to sell that narrative to the public, we're hearing, I would say, some ridiculous allegations. Now, remember that I have admitted to the fact that there is a positive correlation, as it were, between espionage and development assistance. A good example I'll give you is when the US was attempting to locate and eliminate the former Al-Qaeda leader, Osama bin Laden. What did they do? Fall back on development aid, medicine, vaccine that was being given in parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan. So there is a close relationship between the two. But the manner that Scott Perry put it, associating Taliban with Boko Haram, I mean, I'm struggling to see that link. First off, there are two franchises, jihadist franchises in the world, Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Taliban does not fall within these two groups. As it were, at the moment, Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are killing each other. So I'm a bit surprised when Scott Perry comes up and make that broad, association without giving any clarification. Is he suggesting, for instance, that the Taliban and Boko Haram, which in essence is, initially Boko Haram was an Al-Qaeda affiliated group. Then by 2016, it now became an Islamic State, affiliated group. So essentially what we have in Nigeria and in the Sahel are two local groups that are affiliated with these two franchises. I'm not aware, and again, this is out in the public. If anyone is aware that there are local jihadist groups that are affiliated with the Taliban, then that would be news to me.
What we know is the ISWAP.
It's ISWAP, which is affiliated to the Islamic State.
It's ISIS.
And there is as of today, there are rivals in Afghanistan.
Now, that congressman has said about $697 million annually are falling into jihadist training ground, terrorist training camps in different parts of the world, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and he mentioned Boko Haram training camps. And he says that this is a waste of United States and improper funding or payment that has been out there. Are you saying that there might not be any iota of truth in direct funding?
I'm struggling to see the link.
Could this be just mere politics? Because those assertions that he made, it's supposed to be an inquisition, but he made them categorically. If you look at, unfortunately, it's a long tape, which we may not be able to play all, but in the main manner in which he spoke, which might be typical of a Republican politician who is gaining some strength fighting against what is perceived as a Democratic Party kind of lax in governance, might be speaking in that light. But one would be worried, as for example, the CDS have said on this program right in that chair, that there are foreign funding of terror in Nigeria. So could you make any link into what he said and what is obtainable?
Again, I'm struggling to see the link between the Taliban, because if I heard him very well, his statement was directed at Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Then later he talked about Pakistan. Now the government in Afghanistan is Taliban-led. And I made it very clear, and I think this is known to everybody. The Taliban, the Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, they are different. So if there are training camps, funds that are going to Afghanistan, and then in that broad statement, he brought in Boko Haram. Again, it's an inquisition. It's expected that he would have submitted whatever it is, a brief with some evidence inside. So the outcome of that inquisition would determine whether his statements are factual or they are,
But let's establish
political.
Is it fact that there are possibility of foreign influence on terror in Nigeria?
Definitely. I've already indicated in my earlier statement that Jamaat, I don't want to call them Boko Haram, let's call them their name, which is Jamaat al-Ahl al-Dawati wal-Jihad. Initially, they were affiliated to Al-Qaeda, and funding for their operations was coming from Al-Qaeda. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm. And there are, for some of us who have interest in terror not only in Nigeria and how it goes in other parts of the world, there are also possibilities that some governments, in fact, there are allegations and there are evidence to show that some governments of the world are intentionally having what they call state-backed terror on other people's soil for some reason, either political or religious. And this could also have a link to Nigeria and in terms of religious and agitation or jihadist tendency. Is that right?
Yes, it is right.
Could that also be an influence on what is going on in the banditry and in Boko Haram? There are those who will say the link is very, very strong. The ties between some of those bandits and the Boko Haram elements are very, very strong. Similar. The similitude is, in fact, almost too identical to separate.
Yes, but I think we also need to be a little bit careful here and not jump into, I would say, generalizations like the type that Scott Perry attempted to do. It is a known fact that there are foreign affiliations associated with extremist groups across the world. It is also a known fact that terrorism, there is state-sponsored terrorism. But within the realm of espionage, it's very difficult to put it on the table to say this is the country, because they don't do it directly. They do it through layers. And remember earlier on, we admitted to the fact that there is a link between espionage and the Taliban. Yeah. Who created the Taliban? It was to an extent between the US and the Russians. And the monster became what it became at the moment. So the point I'm trying to make is, in Nigeria, it's possible. But the onus should be on us as a people, not just to identify, but to limit the ability with which this happens.
So on the final note, and quickly to Dr. Adamu, if you were the CDS, if you are the NSA, some of this information, how worthy would you be and what would you be doing immediately? Just 30 seconds so that we can...
So immediately the disruption of USAID happened. I sat down in Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited and did a very lengthy analysis. What would be the outcome of the disruption of USAID? USAID has enormous assets, both in the security realm, health, name them. Now, what will be the outcome of that asset? We're going to have loose cannons on our hands, Shehu. Loose cannons.
And that's a major problem.
It's going to be a
huge
problem. Because think about it, a significant number of assets are going to be on the loose. The jobs have been lost, and they're not going to go back to the US. They are going to remain somewhere either in Nigeria or around us. So if you ask me especially the National Security Advisor, what he should be doing, get some young hotheads, eggheads, put them in a room, tell them to come up, and they can even use AI. Simulations of what the likely consequence and outcome, and I'm happy to share what I've developed with him. But what is important is to strengthen our intelligence capabilities. Here we have 3 instruments: the National Counterterrorism Strategy, the Policy Framework on Countering Violent Extremism, and then the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Act. We need to implement that. The President should ask for an evaluation on the level of implementation of those documents. Most of them are old. They started in 2016, and they are due for review. So much has changed in the world. That review should include even people like journalists should be as part of that validation process for these true documents. The time for us to be in the manner that we're handling public security
and more intelligent.
Yes, our approach should be more forward-looking.
Thank you so much.
One that uses technology and that is able to look forward in a manner that is preventative and also strategic.
Dr. Kabir,
are you surprised that Boko Haram's name has been mentioned? That the sponsors of Boko Haram is coming from USA, USAID is coming from there? Are you surprised? No, this is Nigeria. I beg one thing, Boko not stop. If you can stop it, because we are tired. We are tired, though. Please, you people should stop it. I know this Donald Trump, hey, it will really do a lot of things. If through that money, they are be giving them money, they create to use the money for the less privileged, for when there is problem in every country, the money don't actually goes to where it should go. It doesn't. E.g., for example, when during that COVID-19, everything they gave to us, some people still get the mind to keep those things for warehouse, for example. So please, you people should stop it. We are tired. Let every country go and work, go and develop their country. Every country have money. They have what it takes to develop their country. Every country, it's just the greediness, selfish interest that won't allow them to do it, to develop their country. Every countries you could think of. But because of that, because of those things that the America, other countries sees in Africa country and some other country, they are jealous. They will not form group. Please, you people should stop it. We are tired. We are tired. Yes. Not leave us alone to develop our country. He's surprised? No, that's the reality. You see, you see the way he sounds so angrily. He's very angry about it. People should stop. I just want you to see. So this is the. Anyways, please share, like, comment, and follow this page for more. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be your guy. Run on for me now.